Hello and welcome to another pattern recognition video, and today I will have some must-know checkmate patterns. I'm not sure how many of these I will do. It depends on how difficult they are, the ones that pop up here. So let's take a look at these basic patterns that everybody should know. So I encourage you to do tactics and puzzles regularly. It's a good quick way to improve your chess, and do easier problems like this to recognize the patterns. If they become more difficult, then it probably works more on your calculation ability. So it depends what you want to work on. All right, so at any time pause the video if you need more time. The knight has just moved forward here, attacking our queen. But we're looking for common checkmate patterns, and hopefully you found this one already. So look for those checks first as they're most forcing. And if we capture here, that will be a common mate pattern. So after this, we have a knight working with the queen for a simple checkmate in one here. So on to the next one. We have a rook lining up on our king, but of course we are looking to mate first. So look for any possible checks, and hopefully you found this because the only check possible is by the queen. So after a capture here on h6, that will be a mate in one, as there's no way to block. So just remember, if you're looking at checks, it'll be a mate if the king cannot do one of three things: capture the attacker, block the attacker, or run from the attacker. All right, on to the next problem. We have a rook stepping forward here, maybe helping to aid in the defense of the king. A couple different possible checks available to us here. The rook could move over, delivering a check. The queen could step over, delivering a check. Or the queen could go here, although this queen is defending that diagonal. All right, so take a look at this. See if you can figure out what would be best. All right. Well, this one may be a little more complicated than the mate in one problems that we just saw. All right, pause the video if you need more time. If not, let's take a look at this. The rook could step up here, delivering a check. So this is a common pattern that you should know when the queen and the rook work together with a file in between them along this file here. So the rook can deliver a check, and that will force the king back, and then the queen will be able to deliver a mate here. So try to figure that out in your head, and that's also important. See if you can solve these problems in your head all at once before you just make one move that you can't take back in a normal game. You have to figure everything out in your head. So here is another common mating pattern with rook and queen working together. And when you're trying to learn patterns, I recommend that you take your time and slowly go over a series of puzzles, and then go over them again and try and go a little bit faster, and then again even faster. And if you do that about 7 times, that'll help burn that into your long-term memory. So we're looking here at a king on the edge of the board. We may have to try and trap that king on the edge before we can deliver the mate. Let's see if there are any options. And when you can't deliver a check that leads to mate, and you have to play another move first, you have to be careful and watch out that your opponent doesn't have a check of their own that can lead to a mate before you are able to finish them off. So looks like, I'm thinking we go here, blocking the escape of the king, trapping it on the edge of the board. And then if the king tries to move forward or backwards, or I don't know, there's not much else he can do, because then we can deliver a mate here. So hopefully you got that. We'll cut the king off and then deliver the mate. Another great pattern to know, especially for you beginners out there. One of the first things you want to learn is how to checkmate with 2 rooks, because a lot of beginners, they start playing chess and they start taking material, and they're way ahead in material, but they're not sure how to finish the king off. So this is a common way to do it. You use the rooks together. One traps the king on the edge and the other delivers mate. All right, here we go. Okay, the king is kind of trapped here. So it looks like it's going to take a couple moves, though, to deliver the mate. So we kind of have to set the king up by pulling the king, decoying the king onto this square here, and then that'll allow the queen to step over, deliver a check, and then a mate. So here we go. Check, check, and mate. Another great pattern here. And that had a another tactic of luring the king onto a square to your advantage. So keep in mind, it may take more than one move to set up some common checkmates. This pattern here of the bishop cutting off an escape here and helping the queen deliver mate. And then, of course, the rook is preventing the king from escaping over here towards the center. All right, we have 5 down. Let's see how many more we can complete here. Okay, queen moving over here towards our king side. All right. Preventing the possible mate here. So what do we do? What can you do in this position to go for a win? Well, hopefully the last problem will give you a hint and you'll be able to solve this. So pause the video if you need more time. If not, here we go. All right. So it looks like another decoy move. We check the king, forcing the king to capture, and that vacates this square as well. So then we can bring the queen over here and deliver mate. All right, check and mate. A nice little mate in 2 there. All right, on to the next problem. We just had a capture here. Okay, look for those checks first. We have quite a few checks. The queen could go here, but is there a good follow-up? If you're going to sacrifice a piece, just definitely make sure you have a good follow-up. But we also have to check the entire board. So there's this possible check, sacrificing the rook. There's this possibility of the queen capturing. But what is the quickest way to deliver the mate here? Well, check the entire board. And if you do, you'll notice that this bishop is lined up here. So with bishop and queen lining up, you should find the mate here on G2. So a mate in 1. And, an important pattern of using your bishop and queen together. All right, next problem. What did we have here? A capture. 2 rooks on the 7th rank can be very deadly. But it is our turn to move here. So what can we do? All right, well, hopefully you found the answer. The clues are the rooks controlling this open file, the bishop controlling this diagonal. So what do? How do we take advantage of this? We also notice that this file is open, so that should give you a big clue. All right, pause if you need more time. If not, we have the king pretty much stalemated. And when a king is stalemated, the king can't go here, 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 or here. And here, of course, because it's blocked by its own pawn. With a stalemated king, that has no possibility to move, well, then you want to look for checks that are to your advantage. Now, if we checked here, the bishop could just capture, so that's not looking too good. As well as the rook's blocking, but so we might need to move the other rook to here, delivering the check and a mate. So hopefully you found that. A nice pattern here of rooks and bishop working together. Okay, pawn pushing forward, getting closer to promotion. We have a queen versus our two rooks. So what can we do? We have to be careful. If we try to play a move that doesn't deliver a check, well then, we can be harassed. The queen could check us here, but none of that matters if we can start attacking with checks first. So we're looking to try and trap this king, but we need to deliver some checks. That way our opponent doesn't have time to harass us. So, if we move this rook, well then that rook can no longer restrict the king to these two ranks here. So we want to use the other rook. So pause the video if you need to figure it out. If not, we're going to go here. The king will have to step forward. So let me put the arrows up. We're delivering a check on the king. The king will have to step onto the second rank. Then we can drop back to here with our same rook and restrict him back to the first rank. And then we deliver mate with the other rook. So here we go. Check, check, and mate. And we see that the king was heading towards our rooks. So you have to be careful that the king is not able to attack one of your rooks while the other one's checking. Of course, if the king was here, he could just pick off that other rook and the mate attack would not work. All right, what do we have here? King has stepped into the corner as it was being checked by the knight. All right, well, we have a common pattern here. Take a look at it. Pause, as always, if you need more time. Okay, we want to look for checks first. I can't emphasize that enough, as checks are the most forcing. Okay, if the knight delivers a check, well, it could be captured by either pawn, or the king could even escape back into the center. So we probably don't want to move that knight. The only other checks possible are with the queen. So try and figure that out. See if you can calculate it. If you're ready, here we go. Queen sacrifice, forcing the king to capture. And now the knight is covering any escape along the G file. So then we want to bring our rook over to deliver a check. There's a possibility of blocking with the rook, but then we can just capture and deliver mate. So here we go. And rook delivers the check and mate. So a good little pattern there to know for sure. When you have a knight that is blocking the king off so it can't escape back towards the center, a queen sacrifice that pulls the king onto the H file with a follow-up by the rook. So a great pattern there. All right, I'll try and do 10 more problems. That way you get a nice set of 20. All right, king was in check by the knight, retreats back. What do we have available to us here? All right, well, the knight is in the area around our king, so that could be a valuable piece, but we need to look for checks. The only check possible is with our queen here. So take a look at that, see if you can figure it out. And here we go. The queen will deliver a check. Now, if the king decides to just move, well, then we can deliver a mate here on F7, backed up by our knight. Other possibility is a bishop block. Then we can just capture and we're back to where we were before delivering that mate. So capture and the mate. All right, great pattern as well, using knight and queen together. They work well in tandem, helping one another out. So be on the lookout for any knight and queen duo, able to attack and deliver a mate. Okay, rook, move forward, attacking our queen. What can we do about it? All right, well, I think we can deliver a mate. See if you can figure it out. What would you do here? As always, look for the checks, but also be very careful to look out for other pieces all over the board. So, you might think, oh, can I check here, capturing the knight, delivering mate with the queen, but you have to watch out for this bishop here. So, what are your other options? Let's find the answer. Okay, so the queen is cutting off the king. The king is trapped on the back rank by this queen. So maybe we have another piece that can deliver mate, like this rook. The rook delivers a check on the back rank, and the knight cannot block because the queen is pinning it to the king, and that will deliver a mate. So there we go, mate in one on the back rank. So always look out for back rank mating possibilities. And solving puzzles with back rank mates can be productive and instructive, so you can see all the different back rank mate possibilities. All right, we have a rook blocking this attack by the queen, but now it's pinned. So what do we want to do here? All right. Well, let's look for those checks. The queen could check here, so that's a possibility. Queen could check here, but the rook could block. And maybe that's what we need to do here. So if we go here with the queen, the other possibility, though, is that the king steps over here. Then the king could try and escape. So let's look at this queen check. If we go there, you have a possibility of a block, but then we can deliver mate with our queen back here. The other possibility is that if we go here with our queen, the king can just step forward, attacking our rook. But our queen can swing over, delivering a mate, and with the help of the rook and with this his own rook, black's own rook, it blocks off any escape. So there's a good pattern here that I want to talk about. So let's end up mating. Now this is a very important pattern. Whenever you have a queen delivering a check to the king on one of the corner squares, here, 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 or here, the queen covers this diagonal, this row, and this row here. The only thing the queen does not cover is this square and this square. So if you just make sure that those two squares are covered and the king can't escape, then you'll have a mate delivered there. And I've used this pattern many times in actual games. And if you know this pattern and you know that the only two escape squares are here and here, and or you can tell in advance that those will be covered, you can deliver a lot of mates this way. All right, on to the next problem. We have a rook that was attacking the king. The check is blocked by the bishop. So now we're looking for a mate. Okay, hopefully you found it here. The rook is lined up, pinning the bishop. So that's a clue for you. Pause if you need more time to look at it. If not, here we go. We're going to deliver a mate here because rook and queen will work together, and this rook is pinning the bishop and it will not be able to capture our queen. So a mate in one. And a good pattern here is knowing how to attack when the king is stuck in the center and you use your rook and queen on the open files. It's really very damaging. You can have a lot of attacks when that king is stuck in the center like that. All right, what do we have here? Knight to f7. Okay, well, let's see if we have any mates. We do. So hopefully you found this one quickly. Take a look. Pause the video if you need more time. If not, we need to look for checks first. And the only piece that can check is the queen. And that will deliver mate as it is backed up by the bishop. So mate in one. And, once again, an example of the f2 pawn and the f7 pawn. These are definite weaknesses on both sides of the board, especially before the king is castled, because at this point the king is the only one covering those pawns and that square. So that can be a weakness that you can target for your advantage. All right, here we go. We have a pawn pushing forward, blocking what would have been a mate here with queen and bishop. So how do we break through? What can we do here? Well, do we have a queen sacrifice in the works? Because that looks to be one of the only ways to check is to sacrifice the queen on h7. We do have a bishop that could capture, but then the knight could recapture. So do we sacrifice our queen, forcing the king to capture on h7? And then the rook could follow up with a check. And then it could get a little bit trickier after that. So let's take a look at this. Pause the video if you want to look at everything on your own. If not, I'm thinking queen sacrifice, forcing the king to capture. The rook steps over to deliver a check, forcing the king to move here. Well, now our bishop can deliver a check, forcing the king back onto the H file, and then we can move our bishop, delivering a discovered checkmate. All right, I hope you were able to follow that one. This one is a little more difficult. So capture, check, check by the bishop, and then we move this bishop. We don't want to go here. where the king can capture it, we have to go here. And after this block, we can just deliver the mate. So a great little pattern here where you target the vulnerable squares around a fianchettoed pawn position. Once this G pawn is pushed forward, it leaves behind weaknesses on F6, H6. The dark squares around the king become weak. And after the breakthrough by sacrificing the queen, rook and bishop work together. All right, next problem. Oh, a fork on our bishop and queen. But we are trying to deliver a mate. So look for the checks. If we try to check with the queen, that could be blocked by the knight, I guess, or the pawn, or the queen. So what other checks do we have? Well, hopefully you found the answer. Pause if you need more time. If not, here we go. We're going to deliver a check there, forcing the king to move, and then our queen will deliver the mate on E3. So check and mate there. So once again, we have that pattern of a queen checking the king on a corner square of the squares all around the king. So queen covers that, queen covers that. Now a piece is blocking, so the queen cannot cover all the way up to E1, but the bishop does that. And then of course the two opposing side squares on C2 and D1 are blocked by white's own pieces. All right, a great pattern to learn and know. All right, queen to F6. What is this doing? Attacking a pawn, threatening to capture with check, and then maybe go after the knight. But it's our turn. What do we have here? Well, it looks like we have a mate. Hopefully you found this. When the knight and queen can work in tandem going after a king, it can be devastating. So it is here. That's the case. So we're looking for checks. Hopefully you found this one. Pause if you'd like to, calculate further and figure it out. If not, here we go. We're going to deliver a check. When a king is being checked, he can only capture the attacker, block, or run. Now here he cannot capture the attacker, he cannot run, so he must block with the bishop, but then our queen can capture delivering mate because it'll be backed up by the knight. So there we go. All right, I'm going to do two more problems. Here's problem number 19. Queen was checking the king, and we have a block by the knight. So now, what do we do next? We're looking for checks. So, looking for those checks. Well, it doesn't look like it would go well if we sacrificed our queen for that knight, and the king just recaptured. So we don't want to do that. Checks, we have queen check here. But the king, if the king ran here, it would be a mate. But the king can go here. And then we can deliver a queen mate here. So let's see if that's the fastest way to win. Queen check. King does not want to go to E2. King would have to step forward. Then we can deliver a check here, and the pawn will cut off any possible escape. And our queen would be covering this square as well. All right. That looks to be the way to go. So check. And because the king moved here, well, now we can just take a look at that pattern again of going here. Queen is covering here, here, and here. The rook is cutting off that escape, and the pawn is blocking the king's escape there. So there's that pattern once again. All right, on to the final problem. Our queen is being targeted here, so that is not good. Okay, let's look for those checks. The only check I see is maybe one possible check here. So pause the video if you need more time. If not, here we go. Queen sacrifice. If the king moves into the corner, we just capture the rook and a back rank mate. But the rook will most likely capture. Well, then we have this rook lined up on this open file. And then this rook can deliver a check on the back rank. The bishop could block, but then we would be able to capture the bishop. And if the rook on f7 retreats back, well, then we can capture with one of our rooks, delivering the mate. Okay, so hopefully you found all that. Here we go. And as I said, if the rook drops back here, well, then one of our rooks can just capture and deliver a back rank mate. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed these checkmate patterns. And these are basically must-know patterns that you want to learn just by solving puzzles regularly. And that'll definitely help improve your chess. And don't just go over puzzles and problems once and then forget them. Try to go over them slowly the first time, then a little bit faster each time. So go through all 20 problems, then you can go through them again and try and go through them a little bit faster, or problems you find on your own. So feel free to leave any comments as usual. Like and subscribe to support the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.